Greetings and welcome to Jefficho Films. Today we're going to talk about a 1987 buddy action cop movie starring Richard Dreyfuss, Madeleine, Stowe, Emilio, Estevez, Aidan, Quinn, and Forrest Whitaker. That's a pretty good cast. So let's review Stakeout.
That is disgusting.
Really?
My God, you eat like that in front of your mother?
It's an old family custom.
Well, I'll tell you, it's not healthy.
The movie starts out with Caylor, a young man who's driving up to a medical office that's attached to a prison, and he's dropping off supplies. Inside his prison cell, Richard is going to fight his cellmate, and he stabs him exactly where he wants him to. He gets taken to the doctor to get fixed up, and Caylor breaks him free, and Don Estevez, our general, is the cop that lets him go.
Okay, see you next week.
Right.
Night.
Night, thanks.
The police investigating find Maria McGuire visited him twice, and they get her address. Then we jump to Detective Chris and Bill, who are having breakfast, watching, waiting for some punk dude to show up by the docks, and they finally see him and chase after him. Chris and the punk fall into a container of fish, and then Bill chases after him and commandeers a forklift, which doesn't help, and the bad guy gets away. Back at headquarters, the captain wants to see them and Detectives Jack and Phil, and they're getting put on a new case. There's 6 stakeouts being set up to catch Richard, and they're being put on the most low priority one, because that's how cool the FBI people are.
Chris and Bill are slobs, sir.
I mean, look at him, smell him.
Lick my left one, buddy. You left cigar butts all over the place.
You guys never once changed the toilet paper.
Oh.
Wait, you don't wipe
You
this?
are disgusting. You are filth.
Hey, what about it?
The captain really enjoys them bickering, and they're renting a house next door. It's a real fixer-upper. Bill calls his wife and kids and lets them know that he'll be working nights, and they read the stats on Maria, and then she shows up.
Like she's undressing.
My God. Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
They perv watch her till day shift arrives, and then they leave day shift behind, a little treat. They prank them often. Then Chris goes home to moving boxes, calls Bill, and said Bonnie moved out. It's graveyard shifts, man. They're hard to sleep during the day. We jump to Rich and his cousin sitting in a bar, and Rich says that his ex has his money and doesn't even know it. Chris cuts her phone line and pretends to be with the phone company and gets inside the house so he can tap her phones. He taps the one in the kitchen, and then he taps the one in the bedroom as she's getting money because her brother got arrested.
I'll bet if I don't have it fixed now, it'll be another couple of weeks or something.
No. 5 days, max.
Days.
Chris wants to go back in now that she's gone, and Bill doesn't want her to, but he doesn't listen. He starts going through her stuff, and she's got a bunch of letters from Richard. She shows up, and Chris has to hide under the bed because there's not enough time to get out. And then she starts undressing to get into the shower, and he starts dancing and spying on her. It's pretty pervy. That said, great body. And then he has to jump out the window. The next night, Chris is going to hit up the supermarket to stock up their food while Bill watches the house, and he runs into Maria. So he takes a shot and flirts with her.
So you satisfied with the phone system, Maria? You don't need anything else installed? Any trim line or video phone or anything at all?
You really are a phone man, aren't you?
Why do you say that?
It's still working on another line. Get it?
Got it.
Good.
She tells him her tire is flat on her bike, which I don't believe her. That's just a pickup line. Nice try, lady. I'm not falling for it. But she negotiates a ride back to her place. He tells her that his name is Bill, which is his partner's name. And then he calls up his partner from inside and says, what's going on? Totally gonna get in shit here. But the night does go in his favor.
You like Mexican food? I made this mean camarones feta cruzanos. You like spicy?
I love spicy.
Good. Well, then you're gonna want to marry me after this.
I love how he keeps looking out the window at Bill while he's sitting with her. She's got a great smile, but she says that she works the night shift too, so they both head out. They didn't even exchange numbers. Rich and his cousin stop off at a gas station to gas up, and then decide to rob it, because why not have a little extra cash? Chris talks to Ronaldo, Maria's brother who got arrested, and he gets to know him, and realizes he's not that bad of a guy, so he offers him a job in construction. He knows a guy, and then he's gonna get him out of there. Then Maria shows up and Chris has to hide, and his boss tells him that other cops got made, so no funny stuff on this stakeout. And then he runs into her and covers up really badly.
Excuse me. Hello, how are you?
I'm okay.
What are you doing here?
Well, I just had, no. What are you doing here?
Bill heads out to pick up a new recorder, but he has a cat and he puts it in the other detective's car because they have a dog and it's gonna piss them off. Chris calls her up and she knows what he did for her brother and is very thankful for it, and then he tips her off that her food is burning. How did you know, dude? Another terrible cover-up. He says that he can't see her for a while and she seems a little upset, but he gives her his number, which is 555-5050. That is such a cop number. She calls him the next day and he realizes, shit, I'm on the tapped phone, so he starts coughing up and making up an excuse. And then later that night, some guy forces his way into her house and starts manhandling, and he runs over and helps her out. The guy's looking for his wife and thinks that she's hiding there, but eventually Chris calms him down.
How about some coffee?
Yeah, coffee's good.
Yeah, we'll have some coffee. We'll calm down. Talk about Gail. Can we have some coffee, please?
Chris is impressing her, and they send the guy home after giving him coffee and talking about his wife. And he tries to leave, but she kisses him. And then she sucks on his fingers, not in a slutty way, but in like a take me now way. He kills the lights, but Bill can see it's about to go down. And then a car shows up, and it's foggy all of a sudden, and Rich walks in with a gun and shoots him. Of course it's a dream. They were about to do it again when he realizes the time that day shift will be watching, and he borrows a hat and makes a run for it. The detectives show up, and one pursues him and the other calls it in. And then eventually Bill shows up and saves him, and I love his calm demeanor.
Did we practice safe sex?
Back at the precinct, they all listen to Chris's phone call with her, but they can't identify the guy. Bill looks at him and later tells him to get his shit together. Rich and his cousin get into some cop trouble, and they exchange fire and get in a car chase. His cousin gets shot, and they manage to drive into the river because the bridge is blocked and float downstream and are presumably dead. But we see Rich escaped. Chris gets to the stakeout to see that Bill is packing up. He tells him that they got Richard and that they're done, and that he was lucky. She watches on the news, and then Chris shows up. She thinks that he has trouble with the law, but he comes clean.
I want you to know before you start hating me, and you will start hating me, that I've fallen in love with you. Don't interrupt a confession.
And then she runs across to the street and checks out the stakeout house, and she is pissed. I mean, there are some drawings on those walls. And then he tries to salvage it, but it just isn't time. He's gotta let it breathe. And then she runs back over to her house, and Rich is there, and she's surprised.
You broke my heart.
Chris tries again and walks in. Rich points a gun at him. Bill sees this and he tries to sneak over. Chris tries to cover up and say that they had a fight because he had violated his parole. I love how she literally wipes the smile off of her face. It's adorable. Chris said he used to rob banks as Bill climbs up to the next level while Rich is cutting into the furniture where he hid the money. No shit, Sherlock. He's also trying to poke holes into Chris's story while he calls his friend at the docks. Rich spots Bill and takes Chris outside to deal with him, and then he ends up knocking out his partner because Rich was watching, and he tries to convince Rich that he's actually there for him, and so they just tie him up, handcuff him behind the back, and throw him in the trunk. They drive to the docks and sit down, and Chris tries to sneak some keys to Bill so he can get out of his handcuffs, while Rich is explaining to Maria he has to kill them, and he doesn't want her to watch. Oh, and his doc buddy is the punk guy from their last case, and Maria distracts him as they have a bit of a fight.
Maria, get out.
No! Richard! No! No! Richard!
Chris grabs a spare gun and it leads to a gunfight. Well, Bill takes out Rooster, but he falls in the logs, and that's a dangerous place. You could drown there. Chris falls onto a conveyor belt, loses his gun while battling Rich. In an interesting setting of conveyor belts with logs being chopped up, Maria hits Rich to help him out.
Get away!
everything resolved, Bill gets taken to the ambulance and Chris checks on him. And then he checks on Maria. The captain talks to him and says the FBI thinks he has something going on with her, but he denies it.
You saved my life.
You know what that means, don't you?
No. What?
You belong to me now.
Then he kisses her right in front of the captain, and Bill has a one-liner on the stretcher, but he was already put inside the ambulance, so that makes no sense. Terrible editing, guys. Pay attention. The end. The movie was set in Seattle, but it was all filmed in Vancouver. The director John Badham did Short Circuit, Blue Thunder, Bird on a Wire. That's another one I want to do. This movie came out at the perfect time. It was the 8th highest grossing film that year. It was just a solid buddy action cop movie with some decent cast, and Richard Dreyfuss was always a good leading man. It was nice to see him in this. Emilio Estevez, just a perfect complementary part to it. And Madeleine Stowe really broke out in this, I felt. I mean, she's done some other stuff, but I really enjoyed her in this. So in the end, if you're looking for a fun buddy cop action movie, this is definitely one of them. So check it out. As always, thanks for watching.
How you doing? Okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm just a little tired.
A little tired, huh? Well, listen. You go home, you get plenty of rest. Because when I get better, I'm gonna break both your legs. You're dust, Lisa. You hear me? Dust.
Yeah.